allergy language. So he just felt that. It was out way off to one side, and he just nailed that back under there. And sure enough, his heart started beating again, and he came alive, and they landed the plane anyway.
And today we have a wonderful guest. Today I have Tony Schraedel, who is a holistic chiropractor. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct.
And I've known Tony for a long time. I'm good friends with his sons ever since I was a little kid. And
Yeah.
I know Tony has a very unique lifestyle and line of work. And Tony, I know a lot of people are familiar with chiropractic. You know, they know if something's out of place, you go and get adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the difference between just normal chiropractic or adjusting and what you do?
Okay. I got into chiropractic as a young boy after I broke my arm in a fall off some monkey bars in a playground. And so I broke the left arm and I hurt my back, put a scoliosis into it from landing on my seat from about 11 feet up. But Dad took me to the chiropractor, and he had been saved from back surgery from a construction injury on his disc. And the herniated disc he had was four out of the 5 surgeons said, get the surgery, let's do surgery. And the 5th one was a friend of his, and he said, you know, Jack, I wouldn't get the surgery. Many times people regret it, and a lot of times you can heal out of it. If you ever tried chiropractic, I would try chiropractic first. And so he did, and within 6 months he was back to working strong. So he had the knowledge and experience to take me to a chiropractor for that, and it really helped me out. And at that point, I didn't think I wanted to be a chiropractor at that time, but I did know as a young boy I wanted to be a doctor. I always wanted to help people, so I was thinking doctors help people.
Sure.
And I was young, and you know, my grandma's got a cut on her nose, which she probably would need some plastic surgery. She said she fell on a bus in Miami and cut her nose, and I thought, I'll fix that when I get older, Grandma.
Yeah.
And so my Grammy, I get older, she says, you know, you're going to be somebody special someday. And I didn't know what that meant, but I just knew I wanted to be a doctor. And as I started growing up and learning about medical procedures and health, and I started thinking maybe dentistry. Also, as I got older, I was trying to help pull my brother and sister's loose teeth.
Yeah.
And so I thought, that's cool. Maybe I could be a dentist. So as I shadowed a dentist in high school, he shared with me, he goes, you know, there's a high psychiatric and suicide rates among dentists. And the one he was working for, about to retire and take his place, had been into alcoholism. And they just, you go in every day, you drill in people, and they come in a little scared. They go out hurting with a swollen face and maybe some aching from all that. And so I thought, that doesn't feel like me, you know. And then I heard about chiropractic, how people come in hurting and walk away feeling good. And I thought, it's just hands only, no knives, no surgery, no pens, writing prescriptions.
Yeah.
I thought, that's me, you know. I thought that sounds like something I could do. And then I knew it was like the college, the schooling is the next to medical school. You know, it's at least a 4-year program and
graduate program.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
now
you have to get your bachelor's and then 4 years of training afterwards.
You do
right?
now. When I went in, it only required 2 years plus some extra physiology and chemistry, biochemistry.
Okay.
So I went to WSU to get that, so it was about 3 years to get in, you know, 3 plus the 4, so about 7.5 years of schooling.
Okay.
But
so I guess just before we get into your training, I guess you got into chiropractic by just your life experience. You almost had a surgery on your arm, you said, right?
Yeah, broken arm.
And instead you went to a chiropractor and
I did get
fixed.
Yeah, I did get the cast put on the arm. That was good,
sure.
You know. But I mean,
help it heal.
Yeah, it doesn't require a medical doctor to do that, but that's where I went, and that was good. But the low back part, you know, the hurt, that could have been left and causing some problems down the road where I would have some real back problems if it didn't get corrected. So I was grateful that chiropractor straightened me out within just a month or two, you know. And
so you just had some life experience that showed you that you can get healed without getting cut open or things taken out or whatever.
Yeah, I thought, and through chiropractic, natural hands-on, just helping the body heal. and and then my arm healed itself as well. It
Sure.
didn't need surgery. There's a place for surgery, and more of that is emergency medical care. I think that's their forte.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be into health care, and the more I learned and going to school, I realized that not a lot of what's deemed health care out there is true health care. When I think about health and the definition of health, it's the optimal well-being of a person, not only physically, but also mentally, and socially, and psychologically as well.
Right.
And so the chiropractic, it really had a physical model down pretty good. And I thought, Dr. Palmer, the founder, where I went to Palmer College, he was the founder of chiropractic, but he worked on, he talked about toxism, traumatism, and toxism, that's the poisons and nutritional part of it. Traumatism could be, physical trauma or even emotional trauma.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Toxism, traumatism, and I think it had to do with the psycho-emotional type things, the health. I mean, he even had fish tanks in the clinic, for people to just go in after adjustment and look and just watch the fish and be at peace, just a real peaceful environment.
Cool.
But, so I started setting my sights on chiropractic college there.
That's really interesting.
Applying and got accepted.
And in chiropractic college, I haven't done a ton of research on it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you learn mostly about in school? Like, are you just learning about how different things are connected to the spine, or
right.
what organs are connected to it, or what's the majority of what you study?
Yeah, very good question, Mitch. You learn a lot of the basic sciences, anatomy and physiology that you learn in med school. The only difference is when they get into starting to prescribe and learn about pharmacology and surgeries, we're specializing in the clinic, the hands-on adjusting department, and really specifically taking apart each section of the spine, just adjusting the neck and learning how to do that. And I mastered that. My first adjustment, I cleared the guy out. It was like his legs were like a half inch off. It was an upperclassman friend of mine, and I adjusted him, and it was just cleared out in one adjustment. And they're like, wow. So I went on to the thoracics, the mid-back area, and then the lumbar and the pelvis. So you learn those, and then you go into student clinic for a year and start putting all that together and working on the whole spine.
I bet.
But it was fun. I just loved it. I like the hands-on part more than all the the textbook, all the science and things like that. Why this is so hard? Why do we gotta study all this? Everybody would tell you, you're never going to use the biochemistry. You're never going to use but just get through it. But it's true that you do have an appreciation for the body. Although I can't maybe talk my way through the body like some some medical doctors might, specialist in the heart or something else. But I do know a lot of general information. I've gone through all that, but I know that the important part that I learned in chiropractic college is the power that made the body heals the body. And we just adjust, provide the proper adjustment, and let's just get back and let creation, let the body do its thing, and let it return to homeostasis. So the nervous system is such a powerful thing, and given that opportunity to express itself, that nerve connection from the brain, the mind, down into the body. You got 200 million neurons coming out of the brainstem right here, feeding anywhere from, like in a child, 35 to 60, 70 trillion cells.
Right, and I want to talk about that in a little bit about mind and how that plays a role in healing. But you said you made a statement that the power that made the body heals the body.
Right, and
what does that mean?
Okay, so they talk a lot about innate intelligence.
Who's they?
The school, the philosophy department, and even Dr. Palmer, he had a lot of little quotes and sayings around the ceiling edges, the upper tops of the walls in the building.
Dr. Palmer is one of your professors?
Yeah, no, there was the founder was David Daniel Palmer.
Of the school?
Yeah, he was way back in 1895. He provided an adjustment to a janitor there at the building where he was working. And the guy was deaf, and his name was Harvey Lillard. You can look up the history of that. But he asked him, he had to shout because he could hardly hear, but he said, how did you come across, how did you go deaf? And he said, I was lifting a garbage can one time, I heard my back snap, and all of a sudden within, I don't know if it was minutes or hours, my hearing just faded out to almost nothing.
Hmm.
And so Dr. Palmer decided to put him down on the table and examine him, and he found the place about where it popped, and it seemed to be a little more prominent. And he just thought, I'm going to set that in. He gave it a good thrust, and he heard the snap. And within minutes to a few hours, his hearing came back on. It was that dramatic. He thought, wow, I'm onto something here. I'm going to look into this. And he started studying the spine, spinal anatomy. And he was more into more of a magnetic polarity type work at that time, magnetic healing. They call it like hands, the magnetic energy in the hands. But he realized the adjustment specific was powerful. And so he started with the neck, working on that. So a lot of techniques have come out of just doing upper cervical work. Then he went to just the whole spine. There's videos of him adjusting people very forcefully, and you see their legs flying up in there because they have the table within those stomach piece there, so you just really set it deep.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, back then people were a lot tougher. They worked harder, more physical, I think, in their desk jobs, and so they had to adjust them a lot more physically. But today, we're the other way around. We're sitting at computers and school and college, and we're not as tough as we used to be. We're not on the ranch, and you know what I mean.
Uh-huh.
But and so you just got to tailor the care to the person. You don't overkill.
Sure.
So that yeah.
But I guess back to that idea of the power
that made the body. Yeah. So innate. They talked about innate intelligence. That inborn. Some would say God-given ability of the body to heal itself, but also to be influenced from above down, inside out. And above, they talk like from the heavens, that influence or spirit, the spirit, flowing through us. So innate intelligence allows that to come down through us, and then through the mind, the brain, the mind, and then through that spinal cord out into the periphery, into the nervous system.
Okay.
So I've seen people, when I've adjusted them, say, wow, my mind has just opened up after you worked on me. I can think more clearly. And so if you think about intelligence and innate, and the mind being more clear and active, you're working in that. You're in that realm, because what is intelligence? Where does it come from? Where does it flow from? And so we learn things. We get knowledge and book learning, but then there's the ability of something like a wound. You cut yourself or burn yourself. The ability of it to heal, that was put into effect by the creation, by the way the body was created to heal and govern itself in existence, to create that homeostasis. We eat something tainted, some maybe bacteria-laden food, and we throw up. Well, mass society and mainstream medicine would think, oh, it's not good to throw up. Let's give them something to calm their stomach. But I won't give any name brand stuff, but you know what I'm talking about? Sure. We would just say, let the body do what it needs to do. They vomit, and you get the junk out, and then you feel better later. Right? Yeah. Pretty quick, But if you suppress that with something to calm your stomach, and it stays in there for a week or two, you go through a 2-week period of to me, it's just more miserable.
Delays healing.
Yeah, same with a fever. We talk about, fever's high. Mainstream would probably think that's not normal. Temperature should be around 98.6 or something. And if it's at 100, 102, we need to give it something to bring it down. And that's fighting against innate intelligence. The wisdom of the body, that inborn ability, is trying to raise the fever to burn out that bacteria or virus or whatever it is. And it knows when it's gone, it comes down. And then you get an appetite. If you try to eat just because I think I should eat a meal, I should eat some food, usually you end up throwing it back up, because your body has something in the stomach that's trying to get rid of. And to feed more, it just gives it more breeding ground, you know what I mean? Yeah. So to leave it empty, and the heat and even stomach acid will increase just to burn those things out. And then you'll get your hunger back again, and you can eat, and you're back to, I'm fine. I've gotten over most things in the 12 to 24-hour period that usually takes people a week or two. And the same with my kids.
And that's because a lot of people will just take things to treat the symptoms, which will actually delay your body's natural healing process.
Yeah, like it's saying. Yeah, it's fighting against the body's innate intelligence, the body's innate inborn wisdom, to try to not try, but to heal what's in there, and so I've seen the wisdom of that many times, and people in the family getting adjusted, and the other family members did, and then they said, hey, every year we always caught the flu or caught a common cold around whatever time. And the person that was coming to me said, I didn't catch the flu this time, but all my family came down with it. And you know what? They didn't even give it to me. could it be from that care where I'm getting? And it's like, oh yeah,
Interesting.
I've heard that more than once.
Right.
Yeah.
So it sounds like there's a very spiritual aspect to your line of work.
Yeah.
Because you were saying that there's, kind of like a spiritual energy that channels through your brain and your brain through your body, and that if something's out of line, it could impede your brain's ability to have access to that kind of healing power.
Definitely.
What you're saying?
There's reference to that. Harold B. Lee, he's a president in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yeah.
In his teaching, they have different manuals. Through the years they taught, each one had their own book. But the Teachings of the Prophets, Harold B. Lee, in chapter 19, it talks about, there's a section on nourishing our spiritual selves.
Yeah.
And I forget the title of that, but that section says, in every one of you, you have a physical body, or a spirit inhabits your physical body. But in order to have the best spiritual health, you also have to have better, good physical health, and in order to have optimal physical health, you need food and drink. Food and water, drink must be provided at regular intervals. Yeah. And in every one of us, there's a nerve connection to every germ cell in your body. He's not talking about bacteria. There's no nerves connected to germs. He's talking about the germs, like when you have new cells, they're germinating, just like a seed in the earth is germinating. But these new cells that are reproducing and growing has to have a nerve connection. And then he goes on to say, failure to maintain that nerve connection results in stagnation, disease, and sickness, and eventually death or early death of the human body. Yeah. And so those two things, proper food, not junk food, and all the manufactured, processed, and preservatives and additives, but real food, like it came from the earth in the days of the Garden of Eden, and real nerve connection. And I thought, that speaks chiropractic. That's what we do. When we adjust people, we see people failing to thrive, children that were sickly, all kinds of things just start to revive and come back to health, and even do better in school. I've seen artists tell me, man, my creativity went way up since you worked on me. Yeah. My creativity opened wide up. A photographer I worked on from France, he was working in the Grand Canyon area, but he just said, whoa, boy, and he was tired he drank a lot of coffee, and he maybe late hours, but he was also sick, and I just know that after working on him, he shared, there was a couple of things I recommended he take, and his body did a cleanse, got rid of some things, some extra, microorganism type things. Yeah. Micro or organisms that don't belong in the body, and his energy and everything went up. And then his wife started taking it. She goes, "Honey, come here, look." And he goes, "What?" She goes, "I passed some parasites, in the toilet." And he's like, "Whoa." He laughed. He thought she was joking, but he went and looked. He said, "Whoa, she wasn't kidding." Yeah. Can you send me some more of that, or you know what I mean? But I thought, yeah, usually, not everything that I give to one person is the same thing. It's going to be the right thing for their family members. Sure. It's better to check in. And I'm really good at tailoring the stuff, the supplements if needed, because the things we eat could do it if the ground soils were properly balanced and maintained. But sometimes the supplementation is almost essential to really have a more quick turnaround. Yeah. So you give a therapeutic dosage of something that we need. Most of these things are whole food, like vitamin, mineral. Yeah. Sure.
Well, hey, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit more about what you do, because there's, especially in Utah, I see tons of chiropractic practices, and there's a lot, like I've seen some that are just, you're in and out in 10 minutes, you walk in, you say, "Hey, my lower back's hurting," they pop it, and you're out of there. Yes. Right? So what makes you different from just a place that's just a back cracking place?
Okay, great. Yeah. A pop and crack shop. I used to joke about that a little bit, but there was a Dr. Pierce that taught a technique I used and learned from him. Is the Pierce drop. It's a very specific way to unlock the middle of the neck. Usually at a C5, there's a flexion kink. Yeah. But he talked about a lot of docs just pop and pray. It's like they're cracking the bone and vertebra without a rhyme or reason, and just hoping everything gets better. And maybe 80% of the time it can get better. Maybe gradually it's getting better. And Dr. Palmer also said you can hit somebody in the back with a shovel, and 80% of the time they're probably going to get better from that. But it's that other 20%, like the 80-20 rule, where you're really doing these real certain specific things that give you that other 20% that gives you more like the 80% edge on the masses of what chiropractors are doing. And so I feel like I adjust very specifically, just like the artists that do the upper cervical work. I've learned to test and check the body, do a system of checks and through muscle strength testing and things like that to know where and how to adjust specifically, and to leave the other guys alone, because not everything's out of adjustment, but some of these docs want to just crack everything from head to tail and think you got a lot of noise made and you feel like it feels good. It creates some endorphin release, but you're really not doing them a favor. I had one patient come into me and I was testing and I showed him this arm's weak and this one's not. Here at Atlas, he was out. He had a jet ski accident and his low back was hurting as well. And so after I told him he was out right here, and I was muscle testing, the arm's weak, he can't hold it up, and things like that. And then he goes and takes his head, twists it left and right like that, and pops it. Yeah. And I thought, oh, well, smart Alec, he's a friend from my ward. I go, let's see what you did. Hold your arms up. And they're both going weak. And now he's out on both sides. I showed him, look, it's weak, it's weak. And he was like, okay, I better get in here. I started working on him and his wife. And his wife wasn't able to have children. And within 6 months, they were able to conceive and have children because the pelvis was out, which feeds to the ovaries and uterus. And so that had improved.
So I want to talk about your testing because, like you said, I think a lot of chiropractors, they can they palpate a little bit on your back. They can tell if something's out of balance, and then they adjust it until it's balanced. Yeah. But you said you do a lot of, muscle testing.
Sure,
You said that the guy in your neighborhood, he had his arms out, and you could tell that he was out because he wasn't strong.
On both arms, right.
And it's probably not that he doesn't go to the gym or doesn't work out, but you just noticed that would you say you could say that, his muscle wasn't just operating correctly?
Right. There was an impingement or interference. There was an inhibition going on to the nerve flow that goes to that.
So how can you tell that? Because obviously you can tell if someone's just weak, but how can you tell by just moving his arms or doing muscle testing that something's out?
Okay, because there's very specific, I test very specific positions of the arm and know each different position is showing up a different level in the neck, say. And the same with the hamstrings. You were talking about the lower body and the pelvis. You got the hamstrings on the back side and the quadriceps on the front side, but I can check those in muscle testing. There was a technique developed years ago dealt with testing all the different muscles in the body. And we learned through this Dr. Goodhart that muscles have relationships with organs, and the muscle-organ relationship was real important. And one muscle might be the heart or the gastrointestinal or the kidneys. And kidneys ties into psoas. But if you have a psoas off, you're going to have a scoliosis. Kidneys usually need more water. Most people aren't drinking enough water. So I would I would look at that aspect to strengthen it. And then there's a manual correction. There's reflexes on the body that can be used to correct it. So I do that as well. But the specific muscles, like I'm talking about in the arms, and adjusting them, when I pre-test them, they can't hold it up. Or I'd have them do a grip strength test, and they couldn't squeeze 20 pounds with this arm and maybe 50 or 85 pounds with this hand. I get done adjusting them, all of a sudden it's down to 60-60 or something, or 70-70, 80-80 sometimes.
Wow.
And that would be in 1 or 2 visits. So they're seeing the difference. Where I'm just saying, hold your fingers together, and I would try to pull these fingers apart, and they can't hold them together. And this they can. When I get done adjusting, this is strong, but I can pull pretty hard, and it will either hold or it'll start to fade open. Yeah. So that's a tension getter and a confidence builder in people when they see muscles not working and then now working after the adjustment.
I bet.
Yeah, or the leg length. I'll take a picture sometimes of their legs. They're off 18 millimeters, 15 millimeters. When I get done, they're even. And I'm just, even their family members in there, I'll just pull the legs up and show them, look.
Yeah.
And I get done, and then it's off this much before, and after I get done, it's even. They're like, wow, yeah. And then, a lot of times the pain's going down right away, or some symptoms they were having.
I find that so interesting because, so you can tell, so let's say by moving your pinkies, the strength there, you know that one side is different. Yeah. And obviously people have a dominant hand, but after adjusting, based off of how weak they are, what vertebrae to adjust.
Sure.
And I would imagine by doing that, it opens up a channel that was blocked for
Yeah.
energy,
Definitely.
or maybe
Channel
from
was
the
blocked to
brain,
the nerves that go down the arm. Like we study anatomy, the brachial plexus,
Yeah.
and those nerves go down and feed the radial side, the median, and the ulnar nerve. Feed this region of the hand and the muscles in the forearm and front and side flexors and extensors. So it's feeding all that, but you can test up in the shoulders too, in the deltoids, different positions. And at least I do. I kind of developed that. I wasn't taught that in chiropractic college, but one chiropractor taught me the positioning, and then I learned to do the adjustments specific, just more fine-tune it a little bit. But I just feel like that works really good for me.
Yeah, I bet. And I would imagine too, not only can you, like if that were to work to adjust, nerve issues, you can also, because you said that each muscle or part of your spine is connected to an organ. So I'd imagine you can do certain tests to figure out how a certain organ is functioning.
Yeah, definitely, Mitch. You can check. There's reflex. There's techniques to deal with reflexes on the body. Use checking organ reflexes. So you can test, let's say, the liver area, or over here, your stomach, pancreas, spleen. There's just the way it's mapped out on the body. You can test those reflexes before and after. And I can check, like, say, the lats. And if somebody has a high shoulder, usually the lat is weak and the upper trapezius is on normal, and it's just going to pull that shoulder up. And I'll test that lat, and it's weak. They can't hold the arm in tight to the body, and the other side they can.
Yeah.
I'll correct it sometimes through just a resetting of the physiology to the, say, pancreas, and that lat will be on strong, and the shoulders come down, and the pain's faded away in wherever it was, like up here.
Yeah.
With like 50% to 80%, or sometimes 100%.
Wow.
And they're like, but then the other part is if they've been getting into sugar a lot, it's like I reset that metabolism, the blood sugar handling metabolism, and then retest them at a later time, like maybe in a week. And if it's triggered off again, it's just like a breaker switch when it gets overloaded. So if you're hitting the hammering the sugars too much, it's going to throw that pancreas off and throw off that lat. So I would reset that, get them on a diet that's leaving the sugar out, getting more on whole foods type things.
Right.
And it just, within a week or two, they're in a good place, unless they've really, usually it's the liver, pancreas, and adrenals that are involved in blood sugar handling, metabolism, and those things one or two or all of them need some re-nourishment, rebuilding.
I bet.
Yeah, so supplements will help there, or the diet change,
And that's what I wanted to ask too, because I was reading through some of your testimonials from some of your past patients, and one of them came in and said they had they're suffering from some allergies. They're allergic to some stuff. Because I think a lot of people, when they think of chiropractic, they think, back pain, and that's why they're getting treated. But you're treating people for allergies.
Oh yeah. So
tell me about that. How does that work?
Okay, so an allergy response is just the body reacting to something it's irritated by or hypersensitive to, maybe, or not able to deal with properly, like, say, dust or pollens, or certain types of foods. So there's allergies and sensitivities. But when you're having allergies, usually, again, the adrenal glands could be tired. It's one of the side effects of a general adaptive syndrome.
Yeah.
A lot of, I don't know how many medical doctors are aware of that, but I met a nurse on a plane once, and she knew what a general adaptive syndrome is, and I said, what do you do for it? So usually they would just prescribe some drug to, like, to treat the tired gland, like the adrenals or something.
Yeah.
But, you gotta, you're going to hold your adjustments better when those organs are nourished, and so your question maybe was like, what was the question again specifically?
How do you treat allergies?
Allergies, okay.
With chiropractic?
So there's a way to test if they're sensitive to something, whether it's inhaled, contacted, exposed to inhaled, or ingested, like eating it. And so you kind of get the body through muscle testing. There's a way to just kind of have the body think of the things, those categories. Is this something you're inhaling that's stressing you? If you think about it, the body records. We're so brilliant. We're so intelligent. I mean, we're only aware of about a real small fraction. I mean, less than a tenth, maybe a hundredth or a one. I mean, there's different ways we process in the mind, but like maybe 1/100,000th of what's really we're processing and sensitive to.
Yeah.
But the things we're eating it knows if you say somebody think of something you're inhaling and just think of the air, or there's something that's in the air that stressed them, it's going to cause those muscles to go weak, and you're doing a muscle test. Or something you're eating, it's going to go weak from that and not from the air.
Yeah.
So when we get to the air, then, I'm looking at what organ maybe is related to that lung. Makes sense, bronchioles. So we look at, do we need to do something to help cleanse that out, or just give it a rest from, if it's smoking, that's one thing, but if it's something else like pollens, maybe stay away from those things, but also reset the body. We reset the physiology, just like I talked about resetting the pancreas. If it's stressed by sugar, we would just reset and nourish those organs that deal with things that are stressful, like adrenals or some other organ. It could be the kidneys. It could be the lungs, the lymphatics. It's hard to say.
Right. So in the case, let's say pollen, for example. Someone has a pollen allergy. So your process there is you find out, do you use like mental imagery, thinking about what are you breathing? Or like, what does it feel like when you have that allergy?
Yeah, there's techniques and docs, that we can use the substance. If we wanted to grab some pollen from, say, a sunflower or a dandelion, you could grab that and just have them hold it. The energetic, if you think about chemistry and atomic energy, if you look at the atom, the makeup of an atom, the nucleus, a proton, electrons, those things are spinning in orbit. We don't see it, but they really are vibrating. And so that energy field is out there. And when that comes, something with that substance that has that energy emanating from it is coming close to your energy field, because we're out here too. We're not just, if I take like somebody's sensitive to electromagnetic frequency, or they're sensitive to like Superman and kryptonite sort of concept.
Sure.
You're allergic to something like coffee or tobacco, and you bring that cigarette near them in their energy field, it's going to blow the muscle weak. And the same with the pollen, the flower. But if you have them think about it, it's the same thing. If somebody got assaulted, say, on the street, it can produce some real trauma and fears, right? And at that time, they were really scared, or they got in a bad car accident, and they're really scared. But later on, they get this PTSD situation going on, where they get in a car and anybody's driving anywhere near another car, they're like freaking out, ready, like jumping, ready to like hit the brakes or yell or shout, oh, be careful. I remember that happened to me when I was in an auto accident. And so that stress can be recreated if you just say, think of that accident that happened, or think about when you got hit by some thug that took your wallet or something. And that creates that same physiology, just remembering that creates that same negative physiology in the body and weakens you in the sense of the organs that's weakening you. And so you can go in and correct that or clear that trauma out emotionally. But the same with the allergy, you're clearing it out physiologically.
Yeah.
So I'm resetting the organ or gland that it's associated with it through a spinal adjustment, most likely.
Okay. And so just to recap, so if someone has, I like that example of like getting mugged on the street and they have PTSD from it. So you basically almost recreate that feeling of when they were in that moment.
Yeah, they remember it.
They feel that. And as they're experiencing that, you do certain muscle tests to identify which adrenal glands or reflexes or organs. And based off of which one is weak, you know which vertebrae to adjust, which can then reset and clear that from it. Yeah,
there's a certain numeric sequence in the spine, just like a breaker switch, to set and stimulate, tap or reset. It's not a misalignment as much. Sometimes like a gross misalignment as more as it is as a stimulation. You're tapping and getting that nervous system to get just a reset, So you could, Jordan, he gave me a testimony the other day, my son. He'd sprained his wrist at Weber in an arm wrestling contest. The last guy grabbed him high on the thumb and just bent him over. It was the winner gets the $100 or something.
Yeah.
And Jordan, I said, why didn't you break the grip? Because he was winning all four of the guys right before him up to then. And I'm sure he would have beat that guy too. And that he lost, but his wrist was hurting for weeks. And he's like, Dad, can you work on it, help it out? I can't even turn it over past, here I can do this one like this one, but this one, it's like, it hurts.
Yeah.
So I would adjust the wrist. I was adjusting the spine, the neck, the nerves would go down to it. But finally, like about 2 to 4 weeks later, he came over, he had a girlfriend with him. He said, can you check her ankle? She sprained it, and I worked on that. And after she got up, she was jumping around on it, stomping. I'm thinking, what is she doing, are we trying to re-injure it or something? You just
Yeah.
look at, like, what are you doing? She goes, it doesn't hurt. Look, She was amazed. And then Jordan, I worked on his wrist. It tied into low back. So through a series of tests and querying within the body, I realized that the low back. So I went back there and just tapped that, reset that lumbar. He just did this out of curiosity, and he turned it over, and his eyes got big. He's like, what? What the heck? He goes, look, no pain, and it's going all the way now. What did you do? I said, hey, that's good. Let's do a testimonial. So I filmed that, and he said, okay. And then I asked her. She said, no, thanks. Yeah, she didn't believe it. Let me go a day or two. Now, I've had a guy I worked on. He's on my Facebook page, but he came in on crutches. And when he went in adjustment, he got up and was stomping around. And I said, how's the pain? He goes, what pain? It's like he couldn't believe it. And his wife's going, see, I told you should come and see him. So it'd been like months. She was trying to egg him on to come get in and get adjusted. But he left. He came a few times. He went back to his town where he works in North Dakota or somewhere. And he came back about 5-6 months later and says, man, my leg's killing me. I can hardly walk the leg, Pain down there right now, numbness, something like that. And I got 2 other chiropractors. I spent thousands of dollars, take x-rays and all this, and they're billing my insurance, but ineffective. And he goes, now you work on me. I just worked on him, and it was gone. The pain was gone like that. I said, now could we do a testimony? He said, sure. He said, he did it. So that's a pretty neat one. But yeah, just the right adjustment. So I did something. He had low back pain, and most chiropractors would adjust his low back. But I found and knew and determined that there was one spot in the neck that needed to be adjusted. And I got on there with my adjusting tool and tapped that thing for like a good minute straight. And then the power came on and the leg straightened up and all. So it's the art. Chiropractic is the art, science, and philosophy of the adjustment. And of chiropractic, there's the art, science, and philosophy of it. But the art of chiropractic many times is not taught and owned and taken ownership of and experienced at the level where it could and should be. So that's what I'm thinking about teaching. I've been asked to teach up out of state here, up north already, and maybe around some other states. They want me to teach this because the art of chiropractic has kind of gotten watered down. There's a lot of chiropractic schools that didn't have the Palmer's influence, and their anatomy part's fine. Their technique department sometimes is lacking some of that experience. Some of the professors went out and practiced and failed and came back and decided to start teaching. And not all. I mean, some probably like teaching better, but I think a lot of what I understood was just that practice was hard. And it is. The business side, you don't really get that sometimes. And some are really good at the business side. They make a lot of money, which I have challenged with sometimes. That business part is just a whole new a different world to me.
Sure.
But the art of chiropractic, I got that down.
So you're passionate about it.
Yeah, we could just work together. I mean, I pull people in from out of the country. I mean, far as away as Hawaii, Mongolia.
That makes sense.
Some of those places.
So it sounds like you mentioned, we were talking a little bit earlier, like what makes you different from other chiropractors, and it's the 20% that you do that's different is you're not only just fixing back pain, but you know how to clear allergies and you know mental blocks or things like that. And working on more of a treating your organs almost through these muscle tests, and or treating people with mental trauma. I have a way to just cut to the chase. So I'm working with the emotional, the nutritional, and the structural and energetic aspects of health. But when you look at the physical part, when I adjust somebody, it's very specific. So I see people come in, and I liken it unto a sharpshooter. If you look at somebody who's got a scope and a rifle, and they're really good at it, and they can hit the bullseye every time, right in the middle. And if you use a shotgun, you gave that guy a shotgun and try to hit the bullseye, is he going to hit it every time? He probably hit the target somewhere, or the side of a barn, Close.
And maybe the scatter would get in the target, but it's a kind of a toss of as a gamble, not guaranteed. So there's a lot of shotgun approaches to chiropractic where they just cracking and popping everything without a rhyme or reason, but then there's a real specific. The adjustment, a vertebra can go out in 9 different vectors. So if you think about that and you put it in the right vector that it's out, if you don't smash it flat, but if it's back and down to the left and you just smash it in, it's not up in there. But like a nail when you're hammering, if it goes crooked, you got to get on that nail and get that right angle to get it to, if you've done that, to tap it, get it, so you don't have to pull the nail out and start over. But you can drive that vertebra in very specifically. I did that yesterday to somebody, and her dad was a chiropractor. She comes to me, She is a great lady.
That's
Works
funny.
on her kids and things, but a
Yeah.
lot of times she'll bring them to me for that extra specific little finesse that I've developed over the years. But I love that she appreciates that quality adjustment and can feel the difference, what it's doing right inside the body right away.
I like that a lot. So what you're saying is most chiropractors use the shotgun approach of saying, oh, you have this issue.
A lot.
So I'm just going to pop everything in your body and see if it fixes it.
They get
and you're really good at identifying whether it's a structural issue, an energy issue. I forget, there's three things. There's
structure, physiological, emotional, and biochemical, nutritional. So the mind, emotional, and mental aspect. So you could be having something toxifying the brain. You could be heavy metals or bad fats. Bad fats plugging up the brain. The circulation is plugged up to the brain. There's a lot of things that affect the mind, but the adjustment, a lot of times the C1 also affects the nerves that go up into the head. So I've had like somebody with 4 months of depression have that lift in one adjustment. And like, my goodness, I was sitting home in the corner up against the wall, feeling like going to the doc and getting a prescription or something, and I thought maybe you could help. So they called me. Let's see, come on in. And then after one adjustment, she goes home and cleans her home, cleans her mom's home, cleans her mom's friend's home, goes plays tennis and has energy left over. It's like, what? How'd that happen? But it's just opening up the chemistry, those.
And that was after an adjustment that
Yeah. When you adjust somebody, it balances the brain, the left and right brain. So they do better in school. I've seen it with my kids. I've seen dyslexia cleared out. I've seen, like I said, the artist part, musician, but I've seen even Bon Jovi got chiropractic. His chiropractor, he wanted me to go work for him and cover him while I go on tour with Bon Jovi and Guns N' Roses. Yeah. But I didn't want to live in West Virginia. It was cool. It was a cool opportunity. It was a compliment to think about doing that. But I wanted to stay in a place that was more family oriented,
I bet.
So we were talking about the adjustments. So physiological. What was the last part right before that? I was saying the physiological.
Yeah, there's like a mental, physiological, and structural.
Yeah, the chemistry and the brain. Okay, here it is. When you adjust the body correctly, it increases oxygenation. There's a quote saying that, chiropractic, it's from the medical world, but it says the adjustment isn't just to alleviate pain from the muscles or organs or the back part. The nervous system does more than just eradicate pain. It enhances and has effects right down to the biomolecular levels of health. And I thought, wow, that's powerful. And failure to maintain that nervous system this is out of PhD and MD. I think I have the quote, but it says results in approximately 14 years off your life. So we're thinking about we're enhancing life. Chiropractic doesn't add life, but it adds the ability to maintain yourself in existence at a more optimal level and just deal with all the stresses we have, to adapt and handle stress a lot better. So it balances the brain, the neurotransmitters. So that's where the mental emotional part has really helped. It balances neurotransmitters. So if you look at dopamine, serotonin, all those things, epinephrine and the things that, GABA, you can supplement those, but if you really need it from adjustment, you don't get that. Just like if you got pain and you're taking pain pills to hide the pain, but you're out of adjustment, you're still going to have the consequences, the side effects of having a nerve pinched off that's going to, say, the liver or the kidneys or the hamstring. And you're getting sciatic pain or disc pain, but you don't want to hide that pain. You're going to end up hurting that disc worse and end up needing a surgery, or it blows out, So that's...
I find that very interesting because, like you said, a lot of what you do is correcting like the pathways for the nervous system. Mm-hmm. And I think I myself, just because I haven't studied it much, when I think of nervous system, I think of your body's just natural response to pain or touch or just feeling your surroundings. Mm-hmm. But I think what I'm learning from you is that your nervous system is connected to your organs and every part of your body,
even the fluids,
right? And so if you're not being adjusted or correcting those pathways, you can damage those organs or processes in your body.
They start to atrophy.
Like you said, because you said like if you don't adjust, it could take 14 years off your life. Yeah. Just because those pathways for your nervous system blocked or
Right.
aren't functioning
Yeah.
properly.
Dr. Pierce, I was telling you about earlier, he was on a jet flight one time and he said somebody had a heart attack on the plane. They yelled on, "Is there a doctor on board?"
Yeah.
Nobody got up. And he thought, well, I guess there's no MDs, but I guess I'm a doctor. I better just respond. He jumps up, runs down the aisle. I'm a doctor. I'm a doctor. And he checks the man. Sure enough, his no pulse, his heart stopped.
Yeah.
And he thought, I'll do what I know. And he reaches back under his atlas and feels each side, and it's like out. And he has this thermometer as a thermograph, and he reads one side and the other. He goes, man, that thing was off like a big centimeter. That's like a mile in neurology language. So he just felt that. It was out way off to one side, and he just nailed that back under there. And sure enough, his heart started beating again, and he came alive, and they landed the plane anyway and got him some medical help. But,
so that was just so far aligned, it was just blocking the pathway.
Yeah,
for
it
that.
choked the atlas, the C1 had torqued back. Usually an allergic reaction will cause the C1 to kick back on the right, and you can reset that. But if you're allergic to something and you do it again, it's going to re-trigger it out. Or the people end up with headaches or blood sugar headaches. That's usually the frontal retroorbital. So I'm looking at all these things when they're coming in. I do a really thorough case history.
Yeah.
And then an exam. So a lot of people have been going to these places where you just go in and get a crack or a pop adjustment without an exam or an x-ray or anything.
Yeah.
They're just getting this real generic stuff, and they tell me, it helped one time, felt better. Another time I go back, and then a different guy adjusts me and it hurt me. And I'm like, I don't want to do that more. So they come back, even though I cost more, they charge more, they're getting a higher quality. So I'm charging what I'm doing to them usually would cost them more than twice of what I'm delivering if you were billing insurance. So I have cash prices, but the people that come from out of the country don't care if their insurance covers it. They've spent $2,000 for a flight, 18 hours, 6,000 miles to fly in and get some real specific adjustment. And they're coming in with like 4 or 5 major health problems, like maybe sometimes like liver, kidney, heart, low back pain, and something else, emotional or something. And I do all that in one person within 2 or 3 visits, and they're going back home 80% better, if not more. Mm-hmm.
Because you're the sniper.
I'm the
chiropractor.
Yeah, it's
right.
I'm doing exactness.
Because you can pinpoint for each of those issues where the problem is at, and it sounds like you know how to treat it by clearing it.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you also can affect it through diet.
I got a really good analogy. So diet, is one of. But if you look at a combination like on a safe.
Yeah.
And you might have the numbers or a lock pad on your locker, but there's 3 numbers. If you do them out of order, it's not going to work. You have to do them in the right order. So I've learned to be very specific in the adjustments in the right order. So if I adjust, say they have major low back pain, but I adjust maybe the neck first and then the low back and then the mid back, that's different than if I adjust the neck, then the mid back, then the low back.
Yeah.
And some would think, well, it starts up here, so let's open everything up on the way down. But it's just an art, a science that I haven't researched enough and put it on paper with people. But I know there's such an art and a science to the order of adjusting things and when not to adjust something. Even though they say my back pain hurts, why don't you adjust my low back? I'm like, the body doesn't say that. It doesn't need that. Go and see what happens and come back and let me know. If it's hurting too much, come back and maybe I'll adjust you, complimentary. But they'll come back, you were right. Sure enough, I got down the road and it started melting away. The pain was going down, and I was surprised. But
wow.
The neck was what it needed, or the low back for the neck. Hard to say. So it's even a foot and ankle pain, sometimes being corrected by something up in another area like the wrist. It's just hard to guess ahead of time without testing them.
I bet, and I'm sure a lot of your patients come in thinking they are just going to get their back popped, and then I bet they are probably skeptical at first when you say, "Hey, I'm not going to adjust you, but I'm going to put you on this diet, or you should take this supplement, or whatever to treat them," and they're probably like, "Wait, what? Like I have a lower back problem, not a diet issue."
Yep.
But you're so confident in what you do, it's going to help them.
Yeah,
it does.
In the years back, I used to kind of try to cooperate with them and give them what they're asking for. And some docs would say, yeah, just give them what they want. Still adjust them if they need adjustment. And I'm like, if it's not going to help, I try to explain that. Just trust me. My confidence is enough that they have trust in me, that confidence that I know what I'm doing. Like a guide taking somebody in the woods and on a in Alaska or somewhere, you feel safe. They've been there. They know what the bears and the things to look out for. But
right.
For me, the adjustment to do it right or to not do something where you think it would need to be helped, like the blowback you're saying, is powerful. Yeah, there is some adjustments I've done that are not even taught in chiropractic college that are really more effective than the way that I was taught, and I just do what needs to be done. Sometimes I put people on blocks. Sometimes I traction them. It's interesting.
And I am curious with that, with like, say someone has low back pain, and you see fit that they don't need an adjustment, but you do like different muscle testings, or you clear a few things, or you change their diet. And let's say they don't fully believe you, but they do it anyway.
Yeah.
For your treatments to work, do they have to be a full-on naturalistic believer, or can they just get the treatments?
Good question, Mitch.
You know?
So, yeah, I thought of that even today before I came here, that when people say, oh, it's faith-based, and, you know, my faith in what I do helps, you know.
Sure.
I see miracles every week, but the faith of a little child or an infant that comes in that doesn't even have understanding of chiropractic, there's no faith going on there. There's an adjustment taking place, and it's opening up that nervous system. So, yeah, they can be a doubter, and if they stick with me, if they're expecting immediate results, they don't have any confidence or trust in me, they just want relief instantly, then you're treating me, expecting me to treat you like a medical doctor whose ultimate goal is to alleviate the symptom or the pain. And he can do that with pills and chemistry, or he can do that with surgery if the pills don't work. But are you healthier because of it? I want you to be healthier. So if you need to be like your hamstring's off or your pelvis is torqued, and your low back's hurting right here because it's dropped down, it's pinching there, but I straighten up the pelvis, I didn't have to adjust that spot, but by straightening up the pelvis, and it just starts to fade away. So the majority of my patients have seen that happen 99% of the time, and there's maybe the 1% that feel like they weren't patient enough for the disc to heal, so they go somewhere else and maybe get another opinion and try to get what they wanted, and that's I know what I would have done would have worked. They just didn't going to get that satisfaction in one visit like they all would like. You know, most people think I want just it. How much do you want it to cost free, and how much time do you want it to take? One adjustment. So I just want, you know, it's like this miracle, almost impossible scenario, but usually it's going to take a few visits and it's going to cost. And I'm not going to I'm not the cheapest guy in town. I'm not the most expensive, but I think I'm the best quality you can find around the country.
Because you're the sniper and you know exactly what's going to work.
Yeah, very sharp.
So I am curious about the frequency of treatment. So let's say like someone's suffering from PTSD, right? And that's whether that's from war, they got, I don't know, rape, or there could be a lot of things. Assaulted, But like how long would it take you to treat something like that? Obviously people suffer at different severities, but I mean, do you have people who come in and it's a one time, you reset something and they feel a lot better? Or is a lot of times do you see people like for months and months and it's just incremental increases?
You do see both.
Yeah.
Sometimes people aren't ready to go at it at the emotional level, and then, you know, the physical level, your physical approach, you start in there, and that does them a lot of good. But you see some that are ready, just do whatever you do because whoever referred me has a great recommendation about you, and you help them. And so I have a little better compliance from that factor. I'm not the biggest guy, you know, back in the days of the Yellow Pages, I didn't have the full page ad or the 2 page ad, you know, I was just more a little one line, my name. But it was referral based, and it's just built from there. And then some of the testimonials I have on Facebook, some of those people are coming in from farther away or have some pretty neat stories to share.
I bet.
Professional athletes, Olympic athletes, musicians, artists, whatever, all kinds of people. A lady with Parkinson's, deaf in one ear, couldn't walk on the other leg more than 5 minutes without sitting down in agonizing pain. And one adjustment, hearing's coming on, she can hear her cell phone, walks 30 minutes the next day with her niece and no pain hardly at all. And she's like, wow, you know, so.
Totally. Well, I guess as we're kind of closing up our episode, and I guess one of my last questions is, it almost sounds like there's nothing you can't treat.
Yeah.
You know, so I'm curious, you know, for those out there listening.
Or doubting.
Or curious. Either curious, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's kind of the list of things that you treat? Like what's on your menu of things that you can treat?
Okay. I treat everything to do with health, but what I really treat is the nervous system and allow it to do the treating. Like whether it's cancer or heart disease, I'm not treating cancer or heart disease or diabetes, I'm treating the body that the sickness has a hold of, but allowing the body to fortify and become more resilient and vital.
Yeah.
So it can just overcome and heal and balance out and heal and alleviate those things as it returns back to better health. It does the healing, not me. I'm not the healer. I don't just put my hands on and heal them. That's
sure.
The Savior does that.
Sure, that's the religious part of it.
Yeah. So I do see though, just great results with everything. And there's nothing. If somebody got shot, there's one thing I wouldn't treat would be a major medical emergency because I'm not trained to take on that.
So if someone has like appendicitis, they're not going to go see a chiropractor, right? If their appendix burst.
Yeah, although I did have a gal with appendicitis,
really?
And it worked on her and it calmed down. So I.
But it wasn't burst and like she was going to die in hours,
it
right?
wasn't that.
Okay.
Although, I feel like. There's a lot more that can be done that people could go to chiropractors for. That's not emergency, but some pain where they do and get checked, and then come down, let it see what's happening, find out what the need is. If it's emergency, you're having a heart attack. They don't want to come to me or a chiropractor, but and you've had a gunshot wound. That's different. You cut your finger off. You're going to need a neurosurgeon to sew that back on. Those specialties that's a beautiful thing. But most of the drugs given aren't food for the body. So if you look at let food be your medicine, the foods we eat have an effect. And if we're eating poor diet, but we want a drug to hide the symptoms or a supplement, a lot of people come in, they're doing the coffee or the alcohol or the tobacco, and they want something to kind of hide the symptoms.
Yeah.
Like we're just kind of adding hot water or cold water back for rob Peter to pay Paul. Let's just get serious. And I'll work with that and work with them, but it really they're getting to. You're going to need to exercise, you're going to eat right, and you're going to need to sleep right and get adjusted. And there's one guy I was having, he was having some trouble with the irritable bowel, like ulcerative colitis.
IBS.
So I was just prayerful about it and thinking, what does he need? Two things. He needed to get off gluten, and the other thing, he needed to get adjustment about 4 times as often as he was getting, like every day. For 2 weeks and even twice a day even or more for just to reset that. And he started healing and he wasn't passing blood. He was going like 9-12 times a day. And then he stopped. He started having a normal night, didn't have to get up 3 times the next night after the first day. He only got up maybe once, slept in pretty nice, didn't get woken up early in the morning, have to go. And the blood stopped passing in this, so all of a sudden he goes, I can have some more gluten again. So he ate something at dinner and it started off again. So I was like, he didn't quite believe me. He goes, well, should I go get a medical test to make sure I'm really allergic to gluten? Because, he's thinking, before I give up my fix, I need my bread. It's like, it's like a drug for some people, right? Yeah. That's how they controlled the masses, circus and pretzels, and breadsticks.
Yeah.
But entertaining them and giving that food, it is a hit. It's a high. It rises the blood sugar pretty quick. With just white bread or whole wheat will raise the blood sugar pretty about the same high. It's a high glycemic food. Yeah. And then the high gluten is harder on the gut. So anyway, he was healing, and I just knew there was one other guy who was dealing with the thing. I told you need to come in 3 times a week. Normally I see people about once a week for a month and then re-examine them. But lately I've been thinking they need the adjustments more often. All the stress we're going through to help them overcome some of these things. I don't want to be just because they would say, well, that's a lot of visits. Yeah, but that's what you need. So I'm going to recommend. Right. Do you think I just go twice a week instead of 3 times? Let me ponder on that. He said, and I said, yeah, but I'm going to tell you what I know is best, and you can do what you want. But I recommend 3 times a week, and I'm not going to vary from what I think is the best quality of care for you. And I left it at that. And he tried twice a week, but I kind of projected out and testing. Instead of 2 weeks at 3 times a week, he'd have to go 4 weeks just doing twice a week. That was the mathematics, how it projected out. So I kind of will do that with people's care plans. I kind of just sort that out in the report when I'm.
So I'm curious to what you'd say to this, just because I know there's probably people out there who would think this, where you say, hey, I want you to come in, 3 or 4 times a week for 2 weeks, I'd
Mhm.
imagine, that can get expensive.
Yeah.
Do you get people who become skeptical thinking that you just want them to keep coming in for business?
I haven't had that many do that, but when they do what I've recommended like that, they get the results. Where the guy that got back, he'd only come twice instead of 3 times in the day, and he got on gluten again, and then he got off of gluten. He's seen the change. It took him a little longer to recover, but he's seeing if he could do it. It's almost sometimes impossible to do it, like Saturday or Sundays in the way, or our schedules, But I'm trying to just. That's a newer thing to me too. To thinking the frequency is so important. Sometimes I'm just kind of going with the once a week thing because that seems to be doable for most people. Some that are in more pain, I might go twice or sometimes 3 times, especially if they're in an auto accident. I might go daily for a little bit till they're about 50% out of pain. But yeah.
So it's mainly just you're so confident in what they need, and really it's the results that show, that prove that that's what they need, and it's worked for other people.
For sure.
And I guess just to recap, so it sounds like you don't just treat specific things. Like overall, you're treating health.
Yeah.
You just want them to be healthy.
Yeah.
But you basically can treat symptoms from anything, whether from mental health to mental blocks to organ health or not functioning properly, or structural issues. Sounds like you can treat just about anything.
Yeah, because anything that's in the body, we're treating that nervous system. It's affected right down to biomolecular levels of health.
Yeah.
And the molecules affect emotion. There's a book, The Molecules of Emotion, but I think it's Candace Pert. But anyway, the power of the mind as well is important. I mean, people can doubt themselves. They can remind themselves right back into dysfunction.
Yeah.
The old way, the old pattern of adjusting. You could learn, you could take a seminar on success and learn, some motivational things on whatever people are doing, in their business. They can go back to like doubting because they have a bad day, maybe go back to doubting and just bring it back down, I was seeing, I won't go into details, but just things would do with hernia, mental retardation, and teeth, even regrowing teeth. You're hearing cool things about the power of the body regenerate when it gets enough of the nutrients, like nutrients, But again, the chiropractic, sometimes we're not getting the chiropractic frequency. I knew a fellow classmate or a student in the college when I was going at Palmer College, and his baby was born with, it wasn't quite fully developed in the heart. And he just felt really strong. He needed to get down there and adjust his little baby like 3 times a day, if not 4. But he was just, and the docs didn't like that at first, but it really helped this baby start to regenerate the heart or heal. It was amazing.
That is amazing.
I think they avoided having to do some major surgery to this little one, but so interesting, huh?
Gotcha. and I'm curious too, and I think this will be maybe our last segment.
Okay. Is
obviously there's a lot of people who are only medical, and a lot of people who are only chiropractic, right? When would you recommend? Because I'm sure like majority of people go see a doctor before they see a chiropractor.
Mm-hmm.
At what point would you recommend people come see you?
I think it should be the other way around. I think we were taught, and it is probably also in other philosophies or teaching, disciplines, but do the least invasive thing first.
Yeah.
So if it's chiropractic, that's not invasive. If that doesn't work, you can go to something a little more invasive, like maybe minor, maybe prescription, some pills, some chemicals put into the body, and then most invasive would be like surgery.
Okay.
So if they're thinking, I got this major low back pain, and they're trying to put them on painkillers so they don't feel it, but then they end up injuring it worse and they need a surgery. But if they could just try something more conservative and the pain's backing off and they're healing, then you don't need to go to the pills or the surgery. But if it's a major emergency, you got an auto accident, you broke your leg and cracked your head, and there's a guy in my testimonials that did all that. He fell down a mountain in Colorado on his mountain bike on his mission. Went home, he'd been seeing the MDs for 2 months. He was still just in pain and lethargic, no energy. Came to me and he said, it was like one visit overnight, within a visit or two, it was like a night-day difference. His energy was coming back. He could ride his mountain bike again, keep up with his kids or his friends. All the pain was alleviating. It's just amazing. So He lists in there lacerated spleen, bruised such and such. Just amazing, all the stuff.
I bet.
And I didn't treat those things. I just adjusted that spine and put in maybe some good nutrition.
Yeah, so I like that. So it's almost like you should be, if you're having issues, whether that be mental, structural, physiological, right?
Yeah.
You should. It's almost chiropractic should be the first line of defense. Second,
or right along with it.
Yeah,
you're doing
or along
medical
with
care.
it.
If you need,
Sure.
you broke some things, or you
yeah,
ruptured a spleen. Yeah, you could do that. But even in the hospital, somebody's in a critical state. Adjustments can do them a lot of good.
I like that.
If we work together, if you had chiropractors on staff in the hospital,
Yeah.
it even helps the immune system. The immune system, they taught us, it can be dropped down within about 30 seconds of ingesting white sugar.
Uh-huh.
It can drop it down about 50% within 30 seconds of ingesting it for up to 2 to 4 hours.
Wow.
So why do we have flu season? Where's flu season? Usually.
In the cold months.
Yeah, the cold months. And what else is in the cold months? What holidays do we have?
The major holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, Christmas,
Halloween,
New Year's, Halloween,
Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. We're eating a lot of sugar there, right? So
True.
I saw that correlation.
That's interesting.
Yeah, pounding sugar. My kids, when they stayed off of it, they did get sick. But the other kids, it's flu season, but they didn't get the flu. But when they started eating a lot of it, they want to do this, want to try it, eat this candy. They started getting the vomiting and the throwing up or a little bit of sickness and maybe
more prone to be
sick.
Just
feeling
things are
yucky.
Off.
Yeah, that's sugar. They learned They learned by experience that it was right. And so I got my son. When my son Isaac wrestled,
Yeah.
he went from 7th grade. He went out with Jordan. Jordan was in 9th grade.
Yeah.
Jordan made it to South End within that one season
Sure.
into about 5th place. But Isaac went from losing every match in junior high, 7th grade, to 8th grade, winning about half of them, and half of those were pins. And then the 9th grade, winning them all except like one.
Yeah.
And it was the most valuable player. But he did, when the coach said run wall to wall and touch the wall and do 10 laps back and forth in the gym, he did it. A lot of would quit 5-10 feet from it and run. And when he said work out, do these many push-ups or mat exercise, he did it all, but also the chiropractic. He would get a chiropractic all the way through, where Jordan said, man, they're all eating hamburgers and soda pops, and they're jumping higher than me. Why do I need to eat right, and it doesn't matter to get adjusted? So 3 weeks before state, he says, Dad, something's wrong. I'm hit a ceiling at 11.5, and I want to know.
Pole vaulting.
Vaulting, yeah. And these guys are at 13 and a half feet. He goes, what can you do? I'm ready. Do anything I got to do. And we're at the sideline at Woods Cross. I adjust him, clear out an emotion on I'm not wanting to beat my teammates. He didn't want to hurt their feelings. Hamstrings off, so pelvis is off, and that's weakening him. And one other thing, I adjust him. He goes from 11.5, which he's been holding at for a couple of weeks or more, to 12 feet. He hit 12 feet, and the coach is like, Jordan, what's gotten into you, And then the next week, he goes into Syracuse at district and takes first place.
Yeah.
And then goes to state at BYU.
Yeah, I think he medaled,
He
right?
medaled. All the other guys on Davis High, they were jumping 13 feet. Jordan had gone in 1 or 2 weeks' time. He went from 11.5 to 15.1.
Wow.
That's over about 4 feet or something difference. And but he went out at like 13 and a half at state.
Right.
But all the other guys didn't match that or top
Uh-huh.
it. So he got 6th in state. He goes, just get me okay with. I just want to be okay with medaling. I don't want to win first place. All these other guys have been doing it longer, but he's just got a good heart. But got him okay with medaling. He took 6th place. All the rest of the guys, the closest with 8th place and on down.
And the common denominator being you cleared his mental block.
Cleared mental, physical, yeah.
It wasn't that he was incapable of doing those things. He just needed to get cleared so that he could actually do it.
Yeah, he had a mental set point. It was limiting him. He was just not wanting to
Interesting.
beat his teammates and make them feel bad.
Yeah.
But I said, Jordan, you got to do what you got to do. If you're going to be, if everybody's holding back because they want to hurt everybody's feelings, you look at that. If you're in war, you don't want somebody holding back on your troop. You guys got to go full forward, be as strong and as tough as you can.
Right.
The same with this team in the sports. You want to all going for it, do the
100%.
best, represent the team. Yeah, so he did,
Totally.
and he nailed it. But
well, Tony, I wish we had another hour. I could just talk with you about nutrition and there's so much to this.
For sure.
But for those interested, where can people find you to learn more about what you do or even get treatment?
Okay,
contact you.
Contact me. You could look on Facebook, Schraedel Holistic Chiropractic.
Okay.
And I'm in Bountiful, and I have a Roy office. I work out of a share space there with another doc.
Okay.
And that my number, though, is 801-498-0791. And if you look at Schraedel, Schraedel, Schraedel Chiropractic or Schraedel Holistic Chiropractic, you're going to find me that way.
Okay.
And typically, if you're curious, just a consultation's free, even a phone consultation. I can start a lot of people over the phone. I have people call in and get help over the phone, and I'll even drop ship to them, and
Gotcha.
out in the Midwest or Hawaii or whatever.
So people can just call you and
Yeah.
and they can just
Talk.
say what their problem is
Yeah,
and see
say
what
what-
you would do about it.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to help people be healthier, even if it's to get them to a chiropractor that could do something that's closer to. But I know that if they go
Yeah.
to school up here, I've had a few students come down from here in Logan, and it was well worth it. Glad they did. There's chiropractors here that are good, but what I do is just unique. I need to teach
Definitely.
that. But yeah, Schraedel Holistic Chiropractic. I'm in Bountiful most of the time, and I'm looking at maybe you're getting an office in Farmington, open up one there, and so yeah, I don't know. Is that
Perfect.
know information?
Yeah.
Email. I
No,
don't know.
plug
Email
whatever
could
you
work.
like.
Let's
No,
see,
that's awesome.
Schraedel. You go T Schraedel like Tony.
Yeah.
T in my last name, Schraedel at gmail.com,
Great.
or A Schraedel at comcast.net. So
Awesome. Well, Tony, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate the work that you
Hey.
do, and I think it's very fascinating.
thank you,
And
Mitch.
I think the viewers do as well. For those of you still listening, please make sure to like and subscribe on our channel so that more people can see people like Tony on the show. And we're also on Instagram and almost every other social media platform. So make sure to follow us. Those listening, we are on YouTube. So if you want to see what Tony looks like, make sure to check out the video version as well. So thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you, Mitch.
Cool.
Bye.
All right, Tony. Thank you so much.
Hey,
for coming on. That was
Yeah.
awesome conversation.
Good job, man.